Chair, Derek Wessels, permanent member of the committee. Thanks.
Thank you. Next on the screen is Honorable Nkondlo.
Morning, Chairperson. Morning, colleagues. My name is Nomi Nkondlo, member of the committee.
Thank you. Next on the screen is Honorable Bosman.
Good morning, Chairperson. I'm Gillian Bosman. I'm an alternate to this committee, standing in for Honorable Dave Bryant.
Thank you. Next on my screen is Honorable Stoffel.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, colleagues. My name is Beauty Stoffels, and I'm an alternate member of the committee.
Thank you, honorable members. With me is Sharon Nicker, who is our procedural officer. I hand over to the minister and the HOD, no, not the HOD minister. You will assist with the introduction. Just to save time, if you can really just introduce all the members that are with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the members of the committee. In the interest of time, I'm the MEC. Next to me is the acting HOD, Dr. Ilse Trautmann. Next to her is Lindy Govender, our CFO, and she's also the acting DDG here. Next to her is Mary James, our Deputy Director responsible, the head of communications here. And next to is Mr. Sidney Babu, the assistant in the office of the director, deputy head of the department, Dr. Mukhale. And in the meeting is also Mr. Paul Rockman, responsible for human resources and operational support. And next to him is Ms. Asia Peterson, responsible for sustainable resource use management. And in the room is Peter van Jaarsveld, my office administrative assistant. Next to her is Daniel Johnson, my media liaison officer. And next to him is Marike van Jaarsveld, the head of my office. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, we are here to deliberate on Vote 11, draft of agriculture in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill B2 2024. I will then allow you, Minister, and the HOD to provide us with an overview in that order. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members of the committee to present to you the Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill. I will just talk about the ministerial priorities going forward, because these adjusted estimates is also a platform for us to move into the next financial year. Although we speak about the current financial year, but in the current financial year, we had a new government, and since that, I have developed new ministerial priorities. To be very short, my ministerial priorities, my key job is to create jobs here in the Western Cape, and therefore to anchor the job creation, I have 4 ministerial priorities. First one, agricultural support. 2, business support. 3, food security and nutrition. And lastly, market access, dealing with export. I will leave it at that to create a shorter space. My philosophy is also that we must create this specifically in the context of the growth for job strategy. I'm now handing over immediately to the acting HOD. Dr. Mukhale, as you know, is currently in China, in Shandong, and therefore Dr. Ilse Trautmann is the acting head of the department, and I now hand over to her. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, Chairperson and members. Thank you for the opportunity to present our adjusted budget to you. And without any further ado, I want to hand over to our Chief Financial Officer to take us forward with the budget. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson and honourable members, and everyone in our boardroom as well. I'm going to take you through the next few slides just to briefly summarise the adjusted budget for agriculture and be as brief as possible. So this is just a very high-level summary of the increase in the budget. You would see it moved from a budget of just over 1 billion to 1.3 billion, with a net increase then of 288 million, which is about 28%. And it's really made up of various areas ranging from additional grants, a slight increase in revenue, and also reprioritization within the department. So in terms of additional funding and grants and own revenue, we've just summarized the main change then making up the 288 million is an additional national grant. It is a CASP grant that was allocated to the department of 300 million for flood damage support, really for the infrastructure reconstruction and rehabilitation from the disasters that occurred between December 2023 and July 2024. Noting that the ask was significantly higher, but we are thankful that there was at least some relief. In terms of our own revenue, we have projected a slight over-collection on the revenue that is generated by our veterinary labs for services rendered on our chemistry analysis. And for that reason, because there's also cost pressure in that program, we've asked the Treasury to increase the revenue projections so that we can also allocate it and use it towards the cost pressures specifically for the new veterinary lab. And then on Program 5, which is our research and technology development services, there was a specific revenue generated from the sale of ostriches in this financial year, and we're now almost ring-fencing that revenue back to the program to prepare the ostriches for the next auction in 2025. Then in terms of our additional funding that we've received, which pertains to our previous financial year, firstly, the rollovers from 23-24. So these are the commitments that we had at 31 March 2024 that we've not received the goods or the services yet. And we have asked in for 12.1 million of rollover. The details of that is then in the vote document from page 267. This is just a high-level summary. So you'll see we've received approvals for the national grant CASP rollover of 2.3 million, and this was specifically for the Elsenburg College, the upgrade of the agronomy section. It is actually a 21 million rand project over the next few years. In terms of our provincial funds, we have asked for 9.753 million of rollovers, which has all been approved. And as you can see, we've just summarized it because it relates to various expenditure items where there's cost pressures. We've just summarized it as operational costs, where there's relief now in all the programs, except for Program 3, but all other programs then received that rollovers. If we can move then to the next slide, which is our revenue retention. So this is the excess revenue, the over collection of revenue from the last financial year, which was a total of 12.6 million. We've then also identified specific pressure points in the department where we need to allocate those funds, and all those were approved by the Treasury. So firstly, you'll see in Program 1, there's a specific project related to our H2A visa program of the United States, where we've allocated funds there as a once-off project, and also then emergency procurement due to storm damage that we actually had to deal with at the Elsenburg College, or at the farm, Elsenburg Farm specifically. Program 4, specifically related to proactive surveillance and disease monitoring as it pertains to our veterinary services. And then, as I mentioned before, with the opening of the new lab facility, there's also additional operational needs there. This program also then has the potential to generate significant revenue for us, and that's why we have to also invest some operational funds. Program 5, mainly our research farms and laboratory consumables. That is really feed fodder, fertilizers for our farms. And Program 7, then, as you know, the Elsenburg College, also significant cost pressure there every year, and we've allocated 4.6 million. Then in terms of shifts between votes, we have utilized some of our earmarked funding towards our replacement of Vineyards project. We have shifted that to vote 10, the Department of Infrastructure, and they are going to assist us with the bulk irrigation infrastructure as part of this project. And then in terms of reprioritizations, we had, there was a 38 million once-off earmarked allocation from the Treasury for this financial year. Because of all the cost pressures and also our analysis of potential areas of saving within the year, we've actually asked the Treasury to unearmark those funds for us, to utilize about 15 million of that for the next financial year. So they're going to roll it for us to 25-26 to assist us with similar cost pressures that we've experienced now, and we actually have every year, to already assign that to the following, the 25-26 financial year. And then in terms of our engagements with the Provincial Treasury, we've also unearmarked and surrendered to the PRF 20 million to assist in terms of provincial-wide pressures that we've almost shown our commitment towards that internal reprioritization even within the province as a whole. If we can then move. So this I will definitely not go through all the detail because it is in the tables. This is just reflecting a summary of the environments between the main divisions, so between programs within the department, and the detail is there in terms of from which department it moved to which department it then went, and we've given a summary of those amounts and also the motivations and what they'll be used for. Chairperson, I'm not going to go through each line item. If we can then move to the next slide, this is just shifts within the programs. So each program, after the half-year mark, we had to go through a detailed analysis of spending and also projecting what still is to come and what is realistic to spend on. And this is then a summary of the required shifts within the programs to various line items where there's either been savings and then to move that to areas where there's been cost pressure. So this is just a summary of each program and how they've reallocated funding within the programs. The last slide then is the changes per program and per economic classification. So this is just an overall summary of how the budget changed per program and then also per economic classification, really the movements across all the programs and across all the areas. So there you can see the detail of how, for example, the cost of employment changed, goods and services, the transfers, where you'll see the biggest change, which is the 300 million that was allocated there. And then there's also been slight changes in our capital. And this also obviously includes the rollovers and retention allocations that has been approved, including the reprioritizations and the shifts. So Chairperson, that is in a nutshell our presentation. Then I'll hand back to HOD and Minister.
Thank you, CFO. It is now open to the committee through you, Chairperson, to ask any questions, and we will happily share some information on whatever you find not clear in the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Acting HOD and CFO and Minister. Honorable members, the presentation has been provided to us by the department with regards to this particular vote. In the blue book is page 267 to 302. So, honorable members, I would allow hands for question. Can I also request that the slide be removed? The coffee is quite appetizing. I see the hand of Honorable Ngondlo. I noticed you. Are there any other hands? Okay, first round is only Honorable Ngondlo having a question. Honorable Ngondlo, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the presentation, and good morning again to yourself and the Minister in the platform. Chair, my first question, I just want to understand from the department that in the 300 million for disaster, can the department share with us about the number of beneficiaries or projects and the nature thereof that would be funded in this conditional grant, that is the CASP money that the department has received from National Treasury? If we can get that particular detail, that's the first question. My second question is that I want the CFO speaks about, the monies that they have unearmarked, a new concept I've actually learned this time around. You know, there's monies that are unearmarked for future years. So I'm trying to understand, CFO, from a financial planning point of view, what exactly is this thing of unearmarking money that would have required in the previous financial year, and in this financial year, half into the year, in terms of budget adjustment, you are saying this money, you don't necessarily going to be using it, and therefore you unearmark or you ask Treasury to keep the money for you for future years under rollovers. So if you can explain to me what that means, because I'm worried about this particular practice, you know, in terms of financial planning and financial spending, that you go and request for money that you justify that you need, you know, at the time, then half into the year, you realize you no longer need the money. Actually, it must be put, you know, so for me, I wouldn't want to see a situation where we're starting to abuse the concept of rollover funding, you know, to go and ask for money, only not to spend it and keep it and say, let's use it in the, and actually which projects you would have, especially if you look at almost the money that you are sending back to the the PRF, you know, what were those projects that were in your initial main budget would have had to use this money, and what would have happened now that this money now is being returned back? So those are my questions for the first round, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ngonto. I see no other hand going once, going twice, going thrice. Over to you, HOD, CFO, and Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks, Mr. Nkontlu. I'm going to ask our CFO to deal with both the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the member for the questions. So in terms of the 300 million, there is a plan at this point in terms of how the money will be utilized, and it will be for the post-disaster and recovery in the various districts. We will be using our implementation partners to implement these projects. I can indicate, for example, when it comes to the river protection projects, there will be funding going to Casidra, who will then assist us with project implementation in all the districts. So all 5 districts will receive an allocation of that 300 million. And then in terms of the ecological infrastructure, we will also be using the water user associations and irrigation boards. There we will also support 3 specific districts where there was the most and significant damage, and where the need is the greatest. So there is a team, and that's why Asha is also here today, that has worked on this plan in a lot of detail based on the formal assessments that was made shortly after these events or these disasters that we experienced, and based on that then there's specific allocations assigned. I think if there is more detailed required, we could make that available to the committee. And then just in terms of the unearmarking, so maybe I can just take a step back. So the initial allocation that we had was a once-off allocation of 38 million, also in support of flood damage. So then when we received the allocation of the 300 million, there was an engagement with Provincial Treasury where there was a proposal to then allocate the expenditure of the 38 million, without now getting too technical, towards the cost money, because it is for the same purpose. And because the Treasury knew that in MTech 1, we went to them with specific cost pressures where we actually asked additional funds. And they told us very clearly that there is no new money to give. So the solution was then to say, okay, we will, as Treasury, they will assist us to then unearmark that 38 million, allow us to use 3 million towards our college pressure this financial year. And because we could look internally at how we could use, for example, COE savings, because there was delays in filling of a number of posts and other areas where there's been slow spending, and there was some areas of saving. We could actually then say, okay, if we could use the COE savings, for example, we also need special permission, and we can use that 3 million of the earmarked money, then we should be fine for this financial year, and it should carry us through. And then they basically reduced then our allocation of this financial year with 35 million. And then they've committed then to place that in our new allocation letter for 25-26. So it's not technically a rollover. It was a reduction of our budget in this financial year during the adjustments process, and they've then already assigned that amount to the 25-26 year. So that is in terms of process, how they've reduced the allocation. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, CFO. Just from my side, you did indicate the H2A visa program. Maybe just for us to just get clarity with regards to how this information get, to the public or to those that are interested in taking up this program. Maybe if you can just share a bit of details there. Regarding the question of Honorable Nkondlo, maybe from my side, maybe we will also put it in the resolution, is maybe to provide us with details in terms of the significant, you spoke about the amount that you have requested was significantly higher, so that we can have the exposure in terms of what was really the total amount that you requested, and obviously to give us an idea as to which areas will not be covered. And obviously, as members of this committee, we can also do an oversight and agitate those areas to be covered as well, if necessary. I see Honorable Nkondlo's hand is up. Are there any other members that want to ask a question or make a statement? Going once, going twice. This is the last round, honorable members. If there are no questions, then I will hand over to Honorable Nkondlo. Honorable Nkondlo, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the response. And I think on the 300 million flood funds, I would appreciate if the department can then provide us the detail of those municipalities where the money is going to be going to, and the actual projects, including the ones that will be done through CASIDRA and also the water boards, if that information can be made available to us as the committee. Now, I'm understanding what the CFO is saying, is that from the initial, because he did mention that even the money they received from Treasury is not necessarily enough from what they had requested. And therefore, if this 38 million is actually being reassigned into the future years, so the arithmetic does not make sense to me, because I'm not sure what would have been what the department asked from National Treasury, which was not sufficient even with the 300 million that they have received. If Treasury would have then taken the extra 38 million, because they believed that, they do have the 300 million, they also do have the savings from the COE and other areas of slow spending. So perhaps maybe you can clarify me around that particular area. But secondly, I want to understand, in this thing of savings from COE and slow spending, I understand that the accounting language would be savings, whilst correct, as we are saying, this is slow spending. How many posts in the Department of Agriculture at this point, have not been filled as reflected in the areas where there have been shifts of environments? How many are those posts? And if you can provide the detail of what is the delay to fill in vacancies, because part of what has been a concern of this committee and all committees around slow filling of vacancies is the impact that such has on the employees, the overburdened, functions, but also the impact, to deliver, which one of the things we have seen your department and others, I remember we spoke about this with your HOD, is the fact that even over and above that, you may have, insufficient staff. One thing that we have been seeing is that you guys are able to deliver over and above. So I'm interested in the COE space, if you can explain to me how many posts have not been filled and explain what are those functions, and the impact therefore. The last one for me, Chair, in this round, in the veterinary services, which one appreciates that recently, I think there's been an increase in the funding. And I like what is being said, that actually through the veterinary services, there is even revenue that is able to be collected. So I just want the CFO to explain, because I think she was quick for me to understand what she was explaining about what they had to negotiate with Provincial Treasury around the over collection, of the service provided through the veterinary services. Because what is good with veterinary services, as I'm understanding, is that through their function, because they are providing a service which can actually be paid for. So it helps, to mediate between the cost, of funding of this particular program versus the fact that it actually can self-finance. So if you can explain that, CFO, but also share with us whether in your planning, do you really set targets? Because I remember part of what was in the annual report was the fact that there was a delay, I think, in whatever, I think the issue of getting, the other labs up and running, if I still remember correctly, so that you can fulfill, the relevant tests and other things that you would have done. Has that problem been resolved, which I would believe would also increase, revenue collection through the veterinary services? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngonto. Over to you, Minister, HOD and CFO.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, members, for the questions. We will first deal with the H2A question. In terms of the details of how much was asked, the big amount, if we can call it like that, for disasters, we will send a report in that regard to you, and then CFO will deal with the Mrs. Nkontlu's or request for information on the municipalities, and we will also provide a report on that, and then she will deal with your other questions as well. So over to the CFO.
Thank you, HOD. Thank you, Chair and Member. Maybe just to quickly go back to the question on the H2A visa project. This is a project that we are implementing again with our partner Casidra. So, Chairperson, we actually had, and Mary could maybe also add if she would like, there was extensive almost engagement where we had what we called a jobs fair. I think it was over 2 days, where we invited a variety of youth and potential interested parties to come and be exposed to what this project is about. It was hosted here at the farm, and there was also online attendance so that we could also reach the other parts of our province that could not physically come to the farm. So there was information was shared. We actually had I think there was some of the agents also that attended to share information. There was even individuals that's gone through the experience of going to the United States to work through this visa in terms of what's offered, and shared their experience as well. So I think it was quite well attended. And at this point in time, the plan is, Chairperson, that Casidra will be assisting in terms of advancing or loaning the funds that is required for these individuals. So it will be an application process. There is an application form that's being developed that will be on the website of Casidra, for example. And I think that details are still refined, that we have already finalized an agreement between ourselves and Casidra in terms of the funds that needs to flow. But basically it is loans to the individuals with very specific repayment terms. It's really to assist them to get to the United States, because there's some specific funding requirements. You need to pay for your own air ticket, you need a visa. So there's specific costs. You also need to live for that first month until your payday or your first payday. So it's basically just a mechanism to assist them to get there. And then there's repayments after that with very specific terms and conditions and things that needs to happen. And even if there's defaulters, there's very specific processes. I noted that Casitas is also online. I'm not sure if they would like to share, but that is in a nutshell, Chairperson. I hope I've addressed your question. Then, as the HOD has said, we will share those plans. There was specific business plans submitted for the ask, which was about 1.6 billion in terms of the disasters, but there is a breakdown that we can share. And then as well as the projects in terms of the water user associations and irrigation boards and the districts that will receive or portions of the 300 million we can also make available. Then in terms of just the COE spendings, in terms of the savings and the slow spending, I can maybe just share with the member. We have about 117 posts that's already approved by the Premier. As you know, there's a new process that we have to get concurrence from the Premier before we can advertise any post. That in itself also causes some delays because obviously the Premier's office also has to deal with all the departments. And we're trying to, as best as we can, streamline it in this department. We actually have regular set meetings. I think it's monthly, if I'm not mistaken, where we actually then produce such submissions to actually do a bit of a bulk application and not one by one. And then once you have that approval, there's obviously then also, once you get into the recruitment process, the challenge we really face also is that capacity on both the CSC side, but also our own side. Shortlisting time ideally should be within 3 weeks, but we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of applications. So we don't actually get to those timelines as we would have liked because of our busyness and the limited capacity to actually then spend time to shortlist that number of people. We also have found that we're not always finding suitable candidates. So even after you've done a recruitment process, you have to re-advertise. There's multiple posts that we have to re-advertise and even go to headhunting stages because we're not finding suitable candidates. And then, of course, vetting. The vetting also takes quite a while. And this all really contributes to why we're not able to fill posts as quick as we can. So even though you've budgeted for it in terms of your cash flow, you don't have the warm body to then spend that money on. In terms of the vets, maybe just to indicate, I'll just explain that again. So we have a total revenue target, and it's specifically assigned also per program that generate income. And generally, we keep it quite conservative because you actually have to reach that target before you can go to Treasury to increase your revenue target. So if you increase your revenue, you have funds available to then utilize in the department. So it's upping the revenue, but also upping the expenditure budget because you need the money to then utilize from that revenue generation. So this year, and we've really went back to the past before the vet labs were upgraded. So we used the history before they started with the upgrades to see what has been the trend in terms of the revenue generated by the veterinary services. And we were confident that we could at least ask for that R1 million, even though the target has not been met yet, but the Treasury was comfortable to allow that we increase that, and then that could then assist with their operational needs. And I can confirm that the upgrades of the labs are complete. And then from 1 April this year, they were fully functional. But like I mentioned, there are still some cost pressures where we have to invest some operational funds to get it fully functional and to be able to then deliver the services that it is intended to deliver. But they are open and they are working and everything is sorted in that sense. So come the next annual report, we'll definitely not have zero achievements for those targets that you saw in the last annual report. And then, Chairperson, yeah, so on the 38, it's actually 35 million in terms of that going to the next year. The thinking was really that the Treasury was comfortable because it was the earmarked money is equitable share funds. And because we've now received funds from CASP, instead of them then giving us new equitable share, which they don't have, they've then asked us if we will be comfortable to then unearmark and use that where there is pressures. I'm not sure if there's any detailed question further than that, but that's basically how it came about. Sorry, I'm not sure who was.
I know you are caucusing. You can finish your caucus if there is any input that you want to make before I.
We fine, Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable members, those are the answers from the Minister and the CFO and the HOD. Thank you very much. I will now allow the members of the public, if there are any. Shireen, are there any members of the public with us here that maybe would want to ask a question?
Chairperson, there are no members of the public on the platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable members, it brings us now to the last part of our deliberation with the department. So if there are any other matters that members would like to engage, we can use the opportunity during the resolution so that we can note those issues that you want to raise with the department so that they can be addressed. So from our side, Minister, CFO, and HOD, thank you very much, and the department for engaging us. We are going to excuse you, but before we do that, we're going to allow you to give us a closing remark. And once again, really, thank you very much for what you do for this industry and for food security. Honorable Minister, your members are very tired. They worked very hard this week. And I think they will do with a little bit of wine, from your side, to spend the weekend, relaxed. But over to you, Minister, for your closing remarks.
Firstly, thank you to the chairperson and members of the committee, as well as the secretariat from WCPP. We have also online the CEO, Dr. Keith du Plessis, and the chairperson of Casidra, also represented by the CFO also, Mr. Freek van Zyl. So he's also online, and I want to thank them also for their work that they are doing. Chair, I'm very thankful for the questions that the members have asked, because I see there's a change in the pattern of some of the questions. Honourable Member Nkondlo asked very specific questions, and I think that is correct. What we have seen now, for the first time this year, the budget office through the Provincial Treasury, during the MTech engagements, they have asked all the departments to do 4 themes. So we had to come to the Provincial Treasury with 4 themes for the budget. And the question that Honourable Member Nkondlo asked was exactly one of those themes that dealt with disaster management and climate change. The second theme dealt with the issue of youth. The third theme dealt with the issue of violence, prevention and community safety. And the fourth theme was on infrastructure. And I think Honourable Member Nkondlo asked the right question in terms of the unearmarked funding, because this is something that rarely happens, but I think the CFO has explained the specific circumstances. I watched yesterday in another committee, not my committee, but in another committee, a similar type of question was asked in the context of, is the government prepared to buy some forward cover for things that going to happen in the future? So I think this is a new phase in terms of public financing that we engage in. And I think the committee has asked us for a list of the 300 million rand distribution in terms of which districts. And as the acting HOD said, we will supply this to the members via the secretariat. I'd also like to thank this committee for the work and the relationship in which we have been cooperating, and I'm looking forward to the actual debate in the House. But I want to thank you, Chair. Thanks, back to you.
Minister and the department, your officials, thank you very much. You are excused. Thank you really very much for your deliberation and engagement with the members of your provincial legislature. Thank you. You are excused. Sharon, can we proceed?
We may proceed, Chair.
Thank you. Honourable members, the vote 12 has been deliberated and presented by the department. I would like to see hands in support with regards to this vote. See Honourable Vessel. Honourable Constable in support. Honourable Mbombo, Honourable Bosman, are you in the House? In support, Honourable Bosman, are you in the House? Against? Votes against, vote 11. Honourable Vessel, are you still? Okay, thank you. So, Sharon, what are the numbers? Sharon?
Pardon, Chair, I was on mute. I say there are 2 members that have their hands up.
Yeah, and what are the numbers for those that have it?
We have 4 members that are in support.
Yeah.
And we have 2 members not support.
Yes, so the members in support have it. Now an opportunity for members to express their views in terms of their against the report.
I'm covered, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
I see Honourable Gondlo's hand is still up.
Yes, Chairperson, allow me to submit my written reasons to Sharon in the next hour.
Thank you very much. Sharon, can you fly the report?
I will do so, Chairperson.
Honourable members, report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Economic Development and Tourism on vote 11, Agriculture in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill, B2 2024, dated 29 November 2024, reads as follows. The Standing Committee on Agriculture, Economic Development and Tourism have deliberated on the subject of vote 11, Agriculture in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill, B2 2024, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with the Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress and Al-Jamaa expressed their minority view not to support the vote. Honourable members, that's the report before us. May I get a hand for proposer? to adopt the report? Honorable Vessel, are you the proposer?
Yes, Chairperson.
Thank you. Seconder? Constable?
Chair, I second.
Thank you very much, honorable members. The report has been accepted and adopted, and as such, it will be sent to the House, and members will have the opportunity to deliberate during the debate next week regarding this particular report. Honorable members, are there any resolutions that we need to record? Honorable Constable?
Thank you very much. Can we just confirm the resolutions that we already took? The list of the projects for the disaster on the 300 million, and also the HTA visa support. Can we also have a list of those individuals that the department support, and also more detail as you request, more detail on that? And then also on the reprioritization of that 35 million, also a list of projects and specifically where those projects is allocated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I do support that we got the list of projects that were earmarked for, I think they said 1.1 billion requests that they have made. And obviously, you know, the reduced 300 million will obviously, they will have to reprioritize certain projects, and maybe they can provide us with that. And on H2A visa program, I think the importance for me is that in addition to what you just said, Honorable Constable, is that we get at least, you know, in terms of the targets, what is the target amount of H2A visa, you know, recipient that the department is targeting on an annual basis, or is it going to be on request? You know, they will just address it on request, but I am in support of that. Honorable Ngondlo, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. I support Honorable Constable that these are added on the resolutions of the information that we've already requested. And then, Chair, my addition would be to get information regarding the process of appointments from advertisement, particularly between the department and CSE. The time it's supposed to take and the time that it takes, you know, in as far as delays that actually result into slow spending of COE. The second one, Chair, and I'm sure this one also has to do with the fact that unfortunately I could not be part of the visit of Elsenbeck. And the person who is not that much familiar with the financing of this, I'm interested to understand, because I see I could not have the time, Chair, as you had concluded the meeting. The funding of Elsenbeck, particularly operations, because when I see a lot of shifts of monies of other sub-programs had to be moved to fund operations of Elsenbeck. If I can just get an explanation of the reasons thereof, because I would assume that Elsenbeck as a program is budgeted for early in the year as part of the main appropriation, unless they were unforeseen or they were increased cost. So I'm just trying to understand, you know, why the bulk, and it's not small money, you know, that had been moved in various sub-programs to fund operations of Elsenbeck. If that explanation can just be given by CFO, perhaps is me not understanding how Elsenbeck gets to be funded, you know, in the as part of the main appropriation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ngondlo. I was just looking for page, I think it's on page, is it page 1? Page 281. Just that Shireen capture it correctly. Am I correct? Are we on page 281 with regards to Elsenbeck? Or should we use 282 where it says 4.6 million to provide for operational costs for the Elsenbeck Agricultural Institute, inclusive of training system development and learning materials? Is that fine, Honorable Ngodlo?
Yes, Chair, it is fine. It is fine. And in my notes, I will send to Shireen. I will also provide the other pages where the shifts have been made that I have. I just have to go back to my notes because I'm sitting in front of my book now. So I don't want to delay. I'll just send those also. But I agree with 281 as you have mentioned.
Okay. So Shireen, have all the resolution been captured?
Yes, they have, Chairperson.
Okay. Any other resolution from honorable members? Going once, going twice, going thrice?
Chair, sorry, Chairperson. My apologies. I wanted to add, I think, on the visa program, just to get an explanation of how, what is the criteria? How do people get to know about this program to participate and access as part of what Member Constable had already, just a small addition there, just a criteria of accessing or joining the program itself.
I agree with you in support. Shireen, you got that one.
Yes, I do, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable members, are there any other resolution going once, going twice, going thrice? Honorable Brenges, we just on time to allow you to go to church. Thank you very much, honorable members, for your participation. You are free to enjoy your Friday, and we'll see each other in the house to debate this very important vote next week. Thank you, honorable members, for your support, and enjoy it. Bye-bye.
Are you sending us the wine? Are you sending us the wine?
Thank you, colleagues.
Are you sending the wine for the weekend?
We spoke with the minister, so he got the order, so he must present us when he comes to the house.
Have a nice weekend.
Cool. Nice
Thank
weekend
you, members. Thank you, Chair.
Cheers, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Nomfundo.
Okay, Sherry.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Has everything stopped now?
Yes, I stopped recording.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.